Okay, let me just introduce myself. I'm Dr. Pang. I'm from Honolulu. My day job, I speak as a private citizen. My day job, I'm the Department of Health, District Health Officer for Maui County. I've had that job since the year 2000. I have a degree, graduated with honors in chemistry from Princeton University. I have an MD degree from Tulane. I also have a master's degree. I worked 24 years active duty, Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. I was consultant for the World Health Organization in Geneva since 1985 to the year 2005. I co-founded the project which trained all the researchers how to do clinical studies. My job was to monitor and set up trials for drugs, vaccines, and diagnostics. I came back to Hawaii in the year 2000. I'm a little bit appalled. That's what's going on with GMOs and the use of pesticides, but I will speak specifically to the issue that the mayor brought up. Remember, I speak as a private citizen today. Department of Health, Maui County, we monitor things, kind of like what you guys are trying to monitor for your crops. We call them transgenic crops, but you call them GMOs. I'll give you an example of how we monitor. We actually do this for sugarcane. So the Department of Health, we demand that the sugarcane companies make logs. When they start to burn, when they finish burning, how much they burn, what is the wind direction at the start of burning, what is the wind direction at the end of burning, and then other things they want to note. There is a rule. They are not supposed to burn when certain wind conditions, Kona wind or inversion, because it might gas out the community. So they follow the rule and they keep their logs. And these logs, hundreds of times a year and several times for when they don't burn. We go over the logs and we can find them. I think we've done it twice. When they didn't follow the rules about burning or not, and they do keep logs, or when they kept a sloppy log. Nonetheless, how good or bad they follow the rules, we also monitor, as we do now, for illnesses, respiratory illnesses. Maybe the rules have to be tightened up. Maybe the logs are fraudulent. We are doing a study right now with the University of Hawaii in Hilo, looking at side effects or illness beyond the rules. That's just a background. Now I get specifically what you guys are facing. The key to all of this is disclosure. It's kind of like what these two gentlemen were saying. Tell us what you're using to begin with, and from then, once you tell me 11 compounds or 20 compounds in combination, how often, and the pulsing that you're using, then we are supposed to scientifically design the study to look at this. You're kind of shooting blindly, saying you're going to do a study without the disclosure. And then and only then are we kind of supposed to set up the buffer zones. Because I can't know how far, or the wind conditions, or the humidity, blah, blah, blah. Am I just kind of spouting this out? I've been to the elementary school twice for the elementary school, 3 times for community meetings. I was the first one as private citizen to look at this. There are very tricky things. For example, we forced disclosure when the kids first got sick and they were spraying with compound ABC. Hey, that's interesting. They were supposed to test for ABC, but they did not test for C. Okay, they promised and didn't do it. They claimed that it wasn't from the company because the company was spraying A and B, but we only found A. Yeah, well, that's because in humid conditions and windy conditions, B volatilizes, so you don't see B because it went away by the time you got there to test. So you can see an outbreak investigation, a study, or a buffer zone depends a whole lot on what you disclose you're going to spray. Also, I've asked for disclosure on Molokai. Elementary school kids got sick. I didn't know they were spraying so many pesticides, so I asked for disclosure of the mutant GMO. And I compared it to other schools. I thought I did a pretty good study. And I went to Monsanto and said, I wish you would tell me what the mutations you used during that month, because all the schools got sick. The community was blaming you, but all the schools got sick, schools upwind of you. So I'm about to exonerate your mutation. They were mad. They said, first of all, we don't have to disclose, and it sets a bad precedent if we do disclose, even if you attempt to exonerate our mutation. Because next month, you'll be asking and you'll be pointing out something bad. So, boy, I was asking for disclosure of mutation, GMO. I think you should ask for disclosure of mutation as well as pesticides. I'm almost finished, but it starts with disclosure. But okay, you guys are urgent. You set forth your best guess at buffer zone. You set forth a study. Good, fine. I saw the old study. There was little problems with correct controls. Now, I just sum this up real clearly. As a public health officer for 35 years worldwide on a blah, blah, blah. Look, if the issue is urgent enough for you to try to set buffer zone, for you to launch a study, and to force disclosure, okay? You got an urgent issue. I was here to argue that it's really urgent, but you guys even know that. It's urgent. I don't have to tell you it's urgent. But yet, the previous speaker said he cannot set up the regulatory guys. I don't know how to involve the state. I cannot set up the resources. I don't know who to fund it. Okay, it's an urgent issue. You cannot set up the stuff to monitor it, the buffer zones. Well, then you don't do it. You moratorium the stuff till you can regulate or resource it properly. Now, I know moratorium is a bad word because you killed the moratorium. But other than the fact that I keep using it, let's just call it block. Okay? When you are concerned enough to set the zone, to do a study, to force disclosure, just like we did for water additives in Maui, when it's that suspicious, you block the product, don't call it moratorium, you block the product till you set up your system to monitor. That's all. I have to answer questions.
But let's see if we have any questions.
Fine.
Okay. Mr. Raposo, then we'll go to Mr. Kagawa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Peng, for being here today. You talk about your experiences on Maui.
Yes.
You're a state, you work for the state on Maui.
Yes, I'm the health officer for Maui County.
When you talked about your, I guess your investigations or your questioning or your interrogations or whatever you call it, does county have county laws?
County passed certain...
Does Maui
Yes.
have county laws?
They had a law, they did pass a law specifically for GMOs. There is to be no genetically modified kalo in the lab, in the marketplace, or in the field.
Well, I believe there was a resolution. There wasn't a law, but as far as what I'm, because you're saying what we need to do, but I'm just curious, does Maui have laws, or were you acting under the state law?
On that one, I spoke as a private citizen.
No, your investigations when you go over there asking them. You were there
for
in
the
the
sugar
capacity
cane,
of a state.
sugar cane.
Correct.
Oh, that's state.
Right. But you were under the authority of the state.
For sugar cane,
Department of Health.
absolutely.
Right. Now, you know who your counterpart here on Kauai is?
Yes, Dilip Ball.
And he does those investigations here?
Well, he has a capacity to do it, but he's a chronic disease guy. He works with obesity and cancer.
Okay, so who would be like a clean air branch?
It would be epidemiology. It would be through him. And you should tell him, well, if you can't do it, Dilip, call somebody who can. And he would call Honolulu.
I believe he publicly wanted us to pass the county law, to pass this bill so the county could go out and investigate and enforce his law. But I guess my point is this: you're with the state, and you were acting in a capacity under the state, which is where I believe...
On Maui.
Yes.
On West Kauai, I acted as a private citizen.
Yes, and the county of Maui
Yes.
did not enforce or did not create a law to circumvent the state law.
For sugar cane, correct.
Right. And I think that's...
But the county of Maui called the hearings and resolutions and resolved something they do, C9, water additive. So when they have specific health problems, they will move specifically on their own problems, and the state comes in and says, well, gee, this is a Maui problem. Can't you guys do something? And so by the time we did the study, the water purveyor chose to remove the additives automatically.
So who did the study? The county? Who does the enforcement of the water?
The county, the study, I did the study also on the water additive.
But you were with the state?
State.
Okay.
That was state.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and for your presentation. Did you relay some of your recommendations to the Director of Health or Deputy Director of Health?
Did I give my recommendations
Yeah, so you
on
have
the
a lot of
Kauai?
recommendations for Kauai.
Okay.
I mean, because
Okay,
I have a meeting with Mr. Gill on Friday.
They have a copy. They have a copy of my report. They sent a state toxicologist, and I read her report. I wrote my report from West Kauai, and they have a copy. They know about the discrepancy between the compounds A, B, and C. They know my report about the symptoms in the children.
Well, I think, the reason why I'm saying it is because I think the governor has said that he's willing to step things up on Kauai. And
Yes.
like I was mentioning, not only the Department of Ag, I think we need to step it up in the Department of Health. And here you're, confirming that we have a State Department of Health counterpart on Kauai
Yeah.
who only focuses on chronic disease and doesn't really do what you do and spread out your duties into some of the health complaints that come in from residents near pesticide use.
He takes complaints, but, it's the cruise ship exhaust, the fume, they brought in the air sensor. In fairness to the governor, the existing governor,
Yes.
the outbreak on Molokai, the one when I first started at West Kauai, that was the previous governor. So you can't blame I don't think you can blame the current governor for people just don't want to listen.
Well, I think where I want to go is that I think you have a lot of good suggestions, and if you give those suggestions to Mr. Gill, I think he'll
Okay.
have a better understanding, kind of some of the things that can be done at the state level to, help, I guess, remedy some of these
Okay.
concerns. So, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilwoman Yukimura, and then we have Vice Chair. Go right ahead.
Dr. Peng.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Okay.
What is a mutant GMO?
The mutations that the genetically modified, when they genetically modify a target, they introduce a mutation.
So
So
that's basically a GMO, or is mutant GMO something
No,
different
no, no.
from a GMO?
Sorry, it's the same thing. It's a GMO, and I asked for the mutations that were inserted because I was trying to say, those look okay. That outbreak in the school that everyone thought was from the mutation, it wasn't. It was in all our schools.
Well, how do you know whether a GMO is okay or not okay?
When you modify an organism by putting in a mutation, okay?
Yeah, so are you saying that all GMO is not okay?
I'm saying that none of the GMOs, to my satisfaction, I have publications of the Yazoo's. You don't have to ask me. None of these GMO products have met what we used to use for drugs, vaccines, and diagnostics. The safety issue
we?
has the
Who's
World
we?
Health Organization when I worked for them for 20 years, or the Walter Reed, and I also presented to the FDA.
Okay, so I just wanted to get clear, because you talked about mutant GMOs, and I didn't know if that was distinct from GMO, but you're saying it's
same.
used interchangeably with GMO.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're saying that all GMOs are bad based on
No,
your
I'm not saying they're
phase of
bad.
research?
No, they're not bad.
They're bad for
They
health.
haven't been proven to be safe.
Okay, so,
They're unknown.
well.
They're
but
not sufficiently known.
Hasn't the World Health Organization cleared GMOs from their standpoint?
No, actually, I quote the World Health Organization in my presentation. And the last quote I use, I think it's 1994 out of Bangkok, that it is not known. The harmful effects are not known. The safety is not known. So therefore, it is not known.
Okay, because I think we've received testimony from
For-
other sources quoting World Health.
Furthermore,
But thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Peng, for being here and providing your insights. I wanted to ask you about enforcement.
enforcement.
And there's, ideally the state would be doing their job and enforcing maybe more stringent requirements that we put together here for disclosure and buffer zones.
Okay.
If they are not able to or do not have the political will
Yeah.
to either create these positions or fund these positions,
Yeah.
then the county may have to fill the void by hiring
Correct.
our own staff.
Correct.
That would be doing very similar things to what our one enforcement person does
Yes.
on this island. So I was just wondering, how do you see that it's possible to work together with the state?
Okay.
Maybe in the area of Department of Health, Department of Ag. If we were to set aside resources, do you think it's possible to work collaboratively in order to reach the same goals?
Okay. First of all, like you said, the two agencies, let's just say three agencies, the feds, they have to have the same will to do the job. So if you want disclosure, but the state says, no, we don't need that, they're not gonna help you. They're not gonna fund something they don't want to do. But if they're neutral to say, well, it's up to you guys. If you really want it that bad and you passed a rule, now you're asking us for resources, or you might ask the company to monitor itself. That's neutral. I would say they don't love your rule, but they don't hate it. Okay, so that's neutral. But in the past, when we have approached the state many times, labeling, disclosure, they are not interested. So you should ask them first, are you truly interested in disclosure? And if the disclosure indicates the need for study and buffer zone, but okay, you already wrote it in because it's that urgent. I'll give you that. Will you support it? Now, Gary Gale's kind of a good guy, and he might say, all right, let's touch and go. Let's try to see that. But first, you got to align the objectives that everyone agrees.
So you think it is possible if we align our objectives,
Yes.
then to coordinate
Yes.
staff to carry out
The
those
only difference I would tell you is that we got plenty delays by the state when trying to do these things from Maui and the Big Island, and to kind of gain a little leverage, the scientific, public health, medical thing you're supposed to do, all right? It'll take us 5 years to do all this alignment. Until then, the product is blocked. Isn't that the common sense thing here? We got diet drugs coming in. We don't know what's causing it. We don't have consistency of product. We got to control the diet drugs. Until we manage to set up that, well, then they don't come in. And that's kind of the impetus, like, oh, yeah, let's get going. Because the companies themselves, if Tim, what he says is true, that they log correctly and no fraud, they'll be happy. Oh, yeah, here it is. I'll give it to you. And it will move it. It's leverage.
So what I don't understand is because the GMO companies are on most of the islands, and you see as a public health officer what the potential impacts or what the anecdotal concerns are, the concerns of physicians on the different islands.
Yes.
Why doesn't the state
Do something.
declare it that
Right.
this is a critical health need? Why is it not happening
Because
at that level?
I quote the State Department of Health laws. Department of Health. The Department of Health has a right to modify, suspend, change, whatever, any kind of law, including the FDA, the feds, if harm is being done. Like I said, with GMOs, we are not convinced. We cannot see harm being done. We do not know safety. We do not know harm. So when it's unknown, we cannot make, the Department of Health can't just make a move till we see harm.
So why would the county?
The county, because you guys can act precautiously. You don't have to see harm to take an action.
And the state cannot work precautiously.
I read the State Department of Health rules, and we were going to take on tobacco, and tobacco harm's being done. So believe me, okay, but harm has to be done. You guys can act in a precautionary way. You think something is cooking there. If harm was done, good luck, because it's a life form that you're going to have a heck of a time pulling out. So you guys, state, feds, can act precautiously. Department of Health cannot.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hoosier?
Yes, Dr. Pang, thank you very much for being here today. In 2009, after the state failed to act on the taro issue with GMO, the Maui County Council passed 9-0 unanimously a ban, an ordinance banning taro, GMO taro cultivation testing on Maui, and it was signed into law by Mayor Tavares. Were you the district health officer at the time?
Yes. I spoke as a private citizen for that testimony.
Do you recall whether Maui County was sued
No.
after doing that? No?
No, we weren't sued, and we were faced with the question, how are we going to enforce it? And enforcement is not that bad, because you think the company guys would rat on the company? Damn right, it's whistleblower. And whistleblower people are trying to uphold their interpretation of the EPA and the rules as best they can, even if they're wrong. And when we went to Molokai, I thought, when I first went to Molokai several years ago, I thought the workers would lynch me. I was messing with their jobs. But their wives came with their children to say, I'm worried about Junior here. So there's always two sides to the coin. I mean, I do not think the employees are so beholden to the companies to sell out so readily if something bad is suspected.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any more questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, please.